Hi, I'm Stephen Orr, and I want to give you 5 easy ways to get picture-perfect curb appeal. One of the easiest ways to increase curb appeal is to start with containers. Most people will do a formal approach. They'll have the same on either side of the front door, and that's a great look. You can have something as simple as a boxwood, but you can also jazz it up a little bit. You could use, say, 3 pots on one side and 2 pots on the other side, and create the masses kind of equally so that you have kind of similar weight with the kind of pot. If you're not sure about your color scheme, to pay attention to a very limited color palette. Maybe you use a lot of silvers and a little bit of pink or blue, but you really want to keep that restricted. Be aware where the pots are going to go. Are they going to be in the shade all day? Are they going to be under an overhang? Obviously, planting them in the shade, you want shade plants that will be happy there. You also want to be aware that most of those pots are not getting rainfall into the actual pot, so you have to water those pots and use a very light fertilizer application to make sure that you get as many blooms as possible. When you're shopping for pots, as I said, try to find things that work together as a unit, but don't make them too small. A small pot needs way too much water and too much care. Don't go below maybe 12 inches wide or 18 inches wide, and you can mix and match your plantings within that. Having these pots by your front door are a good way to decorate outside. You can think of it as 4 seasons of decoration. You can start with spring bulbs, then you can start using summer annuals. You can then move into pumpkins or fall leaves and chrysanthemums. And then finally you can end up with just a few cut evergreen branches put into the pots that will look great for most of the winter. Once you get your curb appeal perfect, you do need to think about fertilizing all your plantings and even some of your pots. You don't want to over-fertilize because you can actually harm the soil and the plants by burning them. So use a light application and use it more sporadically. I like to fertilize pots because they have a lot of the nutrients washed out during their containers. When you're watering, it's actually leaching out the nutrients from the soil, so pots are a good place to fertilize. Also your lawn. You want to make sure that you have your lawn well fed, and that helps with cut down on weed growth. And then in the normal flower beds, kind of scrape in some fertilizer, organic fertilizer around some of your foundation plantings and your trees and shrubs. And then with annuals, obviously they like a little more fertilizer than, say, a shrub or a perennial does. If you're curious what your soil's like in your garden, you can have it tested by your agricultural extension agent. Then they can tell you if you need certain soil amendments like more calcium or, say, more lime. All of that can be adjusted with a wide variety of soil amendments. Also, you can make your own compost. I really enjoy having a composter in the backyard because that way all those refrigerator scraps, when you have a little extra wilted lettuce, goes right into the compost and you don't feel bad about wasting it, and your plants are going to love it. One of the most important things to think about with curb appeal is how you get to the front door. The classic front walk is a straight line to the front door, and you can experiment with different ideas of a curved path or something a little more casual, but be aware that people really do want to get from their car to your front door as quickly as possible. You might even notice in your lawn that there are lines or footpaths formed where people are cutting a corner, and that's called a desire line in landscape design. That means that no matter what you do, people, animals, dogs are going to want to take that path, so why not formalize it with some flagstones or other materials to make it a formalized path and not just a shortcut. Do be aware that people are going to be walking on this path in all sorts of shoes, and you need to make sure it's safe and also something that can sustain the foot traffic. So if you have a traditional house, think about brick and all sorts of patterns, all sorts of herringbones and different ways you can lay brick. Really makes a house seem more historic. If you want to go more modern, then poured concrete pavers are a great way to go, either as one sidewalk, or you can also do concrete square pavers with lawn in between. Americans love their lawns, and in fact, when your lawn doesn't look right, your neighbors will often tell you something. I'm sitting here in the Better Homes and Gardens test garden, and of course this lawn is beautiful. It's green, it's lush, it's cut to the right height. Really think about, do you want turf or seed? Turf creates a very pristine look, more kind of that golf course look. It works in many locations. In some locations it won't work as well. I prefer often a seed sown mix because it makes the grass look more natural, it looks a little more informal, and sometimes it's just easier to get the grass started in hard to reach spots under a tree or in the shade. One of the other things to think about is having your lawn aerated from time to time. At my house, I'd really need to have my lawn aerated because it's starting to get patchy and the grass is not as healthy and as well grown in as I'd like it to be. Everybody knows the typical American house. It has all these shrubs and bushes right along the front. That's actually called foundation planting, and it really is the framework that sets up your house to look its best. When you're thinking about your foundation plantings, whether you're inherited them or starting from scratch, think about multiple seasons of interest. You want spring flowers, you want something happening in the summertime, you'd like some fall color, and some winter berries. And then, using that base of greenery, add perennials and annuals and ferns and other things to add texture and a little life. Because you don't want to have a front yard or a foundation planting that's just solid evergreens. It can be pretty dull. When you buy an older home, make sure that you're not hanging onto a plant for the wrong reason. Often people don't realize that those foundation plants might have been put in decades ago. They're meant to be 3 feet high and now they're 8 feet high. Also, to keep everything as tidy as possible and to keep down weeds, mulch is important. Think about using mulch that is very natural looking. It is the color of soil, rich, fertile soil, so as dark as you can get. And I usually try to avoid things that are too bright and call attention to the mulch instead of the beautiful flowers that are next to them. An easy way to think about what kind of plants go in the right space for your planting is to think about which way your house faces. If it faces north, it will be full shade. If it faces south, it'll be full sun. East or west will be partial. So that's it for curb appeal. Invest a little time in your front yard and it'll pay off for years to come.